few years later, after the dress, an audio clip went viral.
2018. May 2018, yes.
Yeah.
Laurel and Yanny.
Laurel and Yanny. So some people heard that audio clip and heard the word Laurel. Other people heard the word Yanny.
Yanny.
Is it similar to the dress? What's happening in the mind, or is something different happening in this case?
It's very similar and it's very interesting. And I have a paper on this, although we have not published it for the only reason we haven't gotten to it yet. But the pattern is very clear. So let me give you the backstory. So in May 2018, a clip of someone saying Laurel or Yanny goes viral. Why? Because, and let me make sure I get this right, an unemployed cast member of the musical Cats had spoken the entire corpus for dictionary.com, all of the words, because they are trained in the International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA, yes? So I think that's what happened, yes. And they digitized all 500,000 of them, all 500,000 words. A high school student, for reasons unknown, clicked on pronounce Laurel, but in their mind it said Yanny. And they were like, WTF. Clicked it again, said Yanny, but they were like, supposed to be Laurel, yes? Put it online, like, what do you hear here? And we get the same idea. And so what I mean with the same idea, there's uncertainty in the sensory input. Let me tell you what I mean by that. We went to the bottom of this for BuzzFeed, if you can believe it, of all places. but we did I did an investigation with an audio engineer for BuzzFeed News. I'll send you the link after the show. It sounds crazy, but if you can put it in the show notes, it's actually true.
I will.
And what we found is that the actual audio clip has there's three formant frequencies: low, middle, and high in everyday speech, and they're either high. The lower have high power, or the middle have high power, or the top has high power, or middle power, or whatever. There's a mix of these frequencies that is unique to every sound. For reasons that we are not entirely sure, but we believe this guy was recording these, the actor was recording all 500,000 of them, maybe, or they batched it. I think every actor did a couple thousand of them. But anyway, this actor, as they were recording their part of it, I think of a very relatively like low frame rate, like 8-bit or something like that, audio rate. A truck was braking outside, something like that, that corrupted the middle frequency range. So that was ambiguous all of a sudden. Just like the light, just like the flash and the light was obscured in the case of the dress picture, the middle frequency range was kind of not deleted, but corrupted. Corrupted to a point where it was consistent with both the, like now, there's like, I'm not sure if you can hear this, there's a train going by.
People can and they'll hear something else.
There's a train going by. If that happened when we just so happened to record thousands of these words and just record it, and then because of the compression algorithm, I think it was low bit. So CD quality is 44 kilohertz. I think this was 8,000 hertz. So relatively low sampling rate. Anyway, so this was consistent with both a high formant frequency vowel and a low formant frequency vowel. In other words, Laurel and Yanny. And now the same thing kicks in. Your brain hears something, and instead of saying, I don't know, because you can't say that, because ultimately it doesn't really matter what you hear, it matters you act, yes? It says, I'm going to jump to conclusions, because while my competitor is still thinking about it, I'm just going to jump to conclusions. I'm going to jump to conclusions by making reasonable assumptions, yes? And so where does this assumption comes from? It's just like interest from experience. So where does the experience come from? Well, your auditory experience. So by the way, let me explain why the experience matters. So let's say you are at a meeting.
Yeah.
And you're looking at me and you don't see the door. Door's over there. And somebody's late. But it's always the same person who's late. Let's say Bob is late, always late. And somebody came in, but you didn't see who it was. What would you assume who it was?
Bob.
And why? Because it's always Bob.
Yeah.
Exactly. So people make these, so there's a lot of research in this. People don't just make decisions what's out there from the current information, but also information in memory.
Yeah.
And so basically people make these assumptions based on his memory usually. And so in this case, what we can show, and we're about to publish this, is what you have heard more of. And I mean like rock music, say, which has more low beats, low frequency, versus, say, Japanese anime, which have a lot of very high frequency sounds, will determine where to hear is Laurel and Yanny. The additional wrinkle is, in this case, is that age also matters, because someone who's old, like me, has literally a degraded high frequency range, yes? So in other words, I will be biased to hear it as Laurel because my high frequency range system has degraded. Whereas a young person will more likely to hear it as Yanny, as what's the case in this high school student. And what's interesting is that over time, as you hear it more and more, and it's very scary and very creepy, you can learn to hear the other one. And so what I heard was like the Yanny was there all along. It's very creepy. It's like, it's Yanny, Yanny. It's like, whoa, you know. But the Laurel is like very wholesome, like Laurel. The Yanny is like Yanny, Yanny. And it's there. You can hear it. Very scary.
Thank you.
So the question is, what else is out there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's dive into it.
Yes.
Thank you for dissecting both these illusions. I was very, very informative.
But just to be clear, before we jump, the lesson here is, this is a very like cut and dry, studyable in the lab case, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Demonstrably, this is what's going on. This is the mechanism. Maybe one day, if our brain research gets better, our methods, we can show this in the brain. Right now, we can show it in the mind. Maybe we'll be able to show it in the brain. But this is probably what's always going on. Right now, you're using these principles to, so in other words, it's always a guess. It's always an inference. So it means, what if your assumptions are wrong? What if a malicious spirit gave you these experiences and you are resolving the world completely differently than it actually is?